Welcome back to Ice Cream Sundays. My name is Tara, and each week I'll be sharing a different homemade ice cream recipe with you. This week I made these white chocolate raspberry ice cream bars, and you don't need a mold to make them. So I'm starting off with the white chocolate custard base, and I'm just adding my milk, cream, and salt to a saucepan over medium-high heat, and I'm gonna let that come to a simmer. While I'm waiting for that to simmer, I'm going to whisk together the egg yolks and the sugar until it's smooth and fluid. Once that cream mixture starts to simmer, I'm going to whisk that into the egg mixture a little bit at a time. After whisking in about 3/4 of the hot cream mixture, I'm going to return that to the pan over medium heat. And I'm gonna stir this continuously until the mixture comes up to a simmer and it thickens. Then I'm going to remove that from the heat and pour it through a strainer that I have over a bowl with my chopped white chocolate. And I'm going to allow that to sit for about a minute or two before I whisk it together. Once the chocolate is fully incorporated into the custard, I'm going to set the bowl into an ice bath to let it cool down while I work on the raspberry sauce. To make the raspberry sauce, I'm going to combine the raspberries and sugar in a sauce pot over medium-high heat. And while I'm stirring, I'm going to make sure to smash those berries down because I'm going to run this through a strainer later to get all the seeds out. And my goal with this sauce is to cook as much of the water out as I can because once it freezes with the ice cream later, I don't want it to be too icy. Now that the sauce has reduced down, I'm going to push this through a strainer so I don't get any of those seeds in the sauce. And then I'll sit this aside to cool before adding it to the ice cream base. Now that everything is cooled, I'm gonna add the custard to a pan. I believe this is a 8x8, and I have it lined with some parchment paper. And I'm gonna pour about half of the mixture in before swirling in some of that raspberry sauce. And then I'll pour in the rest of the custard and swirl in some more of that raspberry sauce. Now I realized later that doing it this way, I ended up with most of the raspberry on the top. If I was to do this again, I would add raspberry sauce to the bottom of the pan first before adding the custard and maybe layer it in smaller layers to get more of that raspberry sauce throughout. Once you have everything swirled in, I'm gonna put this in the freezer and I let it freeze for a few hours to firm up but not be completely frozen solid because I still need it soft enough to insert the popsicle sticks. And now I'm just cutting these down to size. I did 8 bars, but you can choose to do however many you like. Then I slowly inserted a popsicle stick into the center of each slice. Then I carefully transferred those over to a lined baking sheet that I'm gonna put back into the freezer to firm up solid. To make the chocolate shell, I'm using dark chocolate, but you can use any kind of chocolate you like. And I'm adding some coconut oil to that. And if you're using coconut oil, make sure you use refined so it won't have that coconut taste. But you can also use cocoa butter or shortening. You just want to use an oil that is solid at room temperature. And you want to make sure you're using enough chocolate in a vessel that allows you to submerge the entire bar when dipping. And if you don't want a shell that's too thick, make sure you're only dipping once and you shake off as much of the excess chocolate as you can. Now the shell does dry down pretty fast, so if you want to add something to the outside, make sure you do it quickly before it completely dries. And I'm just doing a light dusting of some freeze-dried raspberries on the outside. But that's completely optional. I just wanted a little razzle-dazzle. So even without a popsicle mold, you can still get a gourmet level ice cream bar at home. But I will say, if you do have a popsicle mold, this will be a lot easier and a lot less messy to deal with. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Please make sure you like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.